are your people from? That was the question my great-grandfather asked my mom when my dad brought her home for the first time to the family farm outside Saluda, South Carolina. My great-grandfather was a rather imposing man with a deep southern drawl. And so his question, now famous in our family lore, was more, where your people from? And I loved after the 8 o'clock service, somebody came up and said, I'm also from South Carolina, and every time I brought home friends from college, my grandfather asked that question in exactly that way. Where are your people from? My great-grandfather's name was Daddy James. He was a name fitting of his posture and presence. And in asking that question, he wanted to know something. He wanted to learn something about this person that my dad cared for and had brought home to meet his people. Where are your people from? Tell me about yourself. Who are you? Share a story, shed a little light. Who are you? It's the question that greets us today as Jesus continues to preach on the mountain. Who are you? In these weeks after the Epiphany, we have had story after story and revelation after revelation about who Jesus is. Shed a little light, Jesus. Who are you? What does it mean that you are God come to be with us? And as we've journeyed through this season, we've learned that God with us looks like Jesus being baptized. Not because Jesus needs to be baptized, but because Jesus immerses himself fully into life with us. There is no part of our lives, no part of creation to which Jesus is not present. Unto the murky and the muddy waters. Who are you, Jesus? And we've learned that God with us looks like a community being formed. Jesus calls the disciples, calls us to leave our nets and join him in his work of repair. Follow me, Jesus says. And so we do. Even as we beg and pray, shed a little bit more light, Jesus. Who are you? And so we have followed Jesus with the crowds now to the mountain, and we've heard him preach about blessing, because God with us and God's work of repair in the world looks like blessing. Blessing the poor and those who mourn, blessing the meek and the hungry, blessing the merciful and those who seek peace. Jesus has shared his story. God with us is more fully revealed, and so today that question of who are you, the question of what does it mean that God has come to be with us, today that question is not about Jesus. That question is about those who follow Jesus. That question is about us. Who are we? What is being revealed about our story? You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Jesus preaches it today, proclaims it. We are salt and we are light. This is our story. Jesus baptizes us with this identity, salt and light. Jesus doesn't invite us to aspire to be like salt and try really hard to be like light. We follow Jesus. And so we are salt and we are light. Light, as we heard briefly in the story, in the children's sermon, light, like the first word of creation. The first word that God spoke over the chaos and the darkness. We awake each morning And God speaks us into the world, let there be light. And then we follow Jesus in hovering over the chaos and the darkness and beckoning forth something new. We are light. God has spoken us since the beginning, and we work for repair in this world with all the saints in light that have gone before. We are light, and we are salt, another agent of transformation. Some years ago, chef and cookbook author Sami Nasrat published her book, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. Maybe you're aware of it, or if you're not aware of the cookbook, maybe of the mini-series that followed it. Sami talks about the transformational properties of each of these elements. And she says that salt has a greater impact on flavor than any other ingredient. Salt balances and enhances the flavor of every other ingredient. When salt is present and used well, the other ingredients taste more like themselves. And Jesus says that we are salt, called to follow him and reconcile all of creation back to itself, to balance and enhance and create. And by the way, we may not often think of Jesus as funny, but most, if not all, of Jesus' teaching and preaching is infused with good humor and irony. Salt actually cannot lose its saltiness. Just like putting a lamp under a bushel basket means that eventually the basket will catch and the flame will light and the light will shine. There's no hiding when we are salt and when we are light. I imagine Jesus grinning as he preaches those moments. My beloveds, he is saying, this is who you are, salt and light. And so the work of salt, the work of balancing and enhancing and creating, it's not easy work. Have you ever gotten in the kitchen and played around with recipes? Sometimes the balance is off, and the ingredients don't taste quite like Mama made it. But even then, salt is still salt. It's our story. It's who we are. And so we get back into the kitchen and we start again. We follow Jesus and we pour ourselves out because we can't not be salt. Salt also purifies and preserves. In a world that values fast and easy and disposable, salt dares to endure. Salt's work of repair in the world, our work of repair in the world, is to hold fast and preserve what is good, to preserve what is nourishing. We are salt, and we are light. We follow Jesus, and we shine, and we are poured out. So in my imagination this week, I've been playing with that image of us, of salt and light, and wondering, what does that look like? What is the image or illustration that shows that? I don't know if any of you have yet seen the movie Hamnet. It's based on a book by the same name. Hamnet tells the fictionalized story of the Shakespeare family, of the love between the famous playwright and his wife Agnes, and of their family. William and Agnes suffer the devastating loss of their son, whose name is Hamnet. And much of the book and movie is a story of their grief, raw and debilitating. Art mimicking life as William writes his play Hamlet, to focus his grief somewhere, to process his grief somehow. The story is hard and terrible and also truthful and real. the primal scream of a mother at the terror of this world. And these actors and this crew had to immerse themselves in all of that story. And so how do they respond? How do they stay present to the hard and the terrible and the truthful and the real, and yet still also hold on to hope and to joy? How do they respond? How do we respond when we're immersed in the darkness and the chaos of the world? What does salt and light look like? And as the movie was released, the director, Chloe Zhao, shared a video of the cast and crew on their last day of filming at the Globe Theater. They again have been living this hard and terrible story that is also truthful and real, and this video shows them dancing. Dancing with abandon and joy and release. Dancing like a watered garden in the midst of parched places. Dancing wildly in the midst of the grief and terror of the world. Dancing as their characters, William and Agnes and Hamnet, and also dancing as the fullness of themselves in their everyday as Paul, and I think her name is Jessie, and I'm not positive of the child's name. But there they are dancing. Dancing not to escape the story that they've told or the story that they've witnessed and lived, but to defy it, to challenge it. Dare we even say to bless it? Salt and light defying terror and grief and fear with blessing. Blessing the poor and those who mourn. Blessing the meek and the hungry. Blessing the merciful and those who seek peace. A dance of repair and restoration and blessing over the chaos and the darkness. Calling forth something new and teaching others, inviting others to do the same. Come and join the dance. And that to me feels like an image and an illustration of salt and of light. That feels like my people, our people. It feels like our story. Salt and light and the dance. May we become what we are.